So, welcome Anush to
Hello.
yes, last on 2021, last day of the conference. So, uh, can you so let me do a quick introduction about Anush. So, Anush has been currently building has been winning some has won some hackathons organized by, for example, IBM, by Microsoft, by Stanford, Yale, like and also some others. So he has some nice experience with hackathons. And the interesting thing on why Anush has been helping out at FlossCon is that he has been using Flask for these hackathons. So we've invited him to share his insight using Flask for hackathons. So can you begin by introducing yourself, please?
Thank you for the kind intro, Abdul. So I'm Anush, and I've been going to hackathons for a year now. And some of my major wins include my major wins include I'm the Stanford's Quantum Hackathon with QC Hacks, and recently I am the global finalist, the global university track finalist for IBM Call for Code, which interestingly uses Flask APIs as a way to handle a backend. And I have won over 10 hackathons, but I think I have lost count of it. And I actually started my entire journey with Flask at a hackathon when I just took part in it and I came to know about this particular framework from a friend. So yeah, I really wanted to help. The reason why I wanted to help out more with Flask on this time is that I've been using Flask a lot, and I didn't really get a chance to give back much for the framework. So I really want to thank Abdul for inviting me to the team. It was really fun working with him.
Okay, and how did you like? Can you expand more on like why you learned, why you chose like Flask? A bit
Sure.
about.
So when I was in my first year, so I didn't come from a tradition. I didn't come from a computer science background. In my 11th and 12th I did my commerce background, and then I moved on to a computer science degree. So since I had more interest in computer science, I wanted to learn more about
I think we've lost you.
Anush, yeah, we've lost your input from your microphone. I don't know whether there's anything you've done on your end or whether it's just gone kaput, but it's definitely gone.
So let's uh, let's wait a bit until Anush comes back.
Yeah, let's do that.
Whoops.
I think it might be a network drop.
Yes, because he's off the StreamYard panel right now.
Yeah.
Okay, he's back.
Welcome back, Anush.
Thank you, Gabriel. I had a small network issue. Yeah, it
Yeah,
should
we
be okay.
noticed.
So yeah, where did you use me?
Yes, it was about how exactly you about your experience, like why you chose Flask in a nutshell, like why.
Perfect. So when I went to my first hackathon, where my friends were building this smoke detection algorithm that will use IoTs to detect smoke and display the amount of pollutants in the room. So that was the first project that I built at my hackathon, and I barely knew anything. So they were just asking me to write some basic functions for the mathematical part, for the calculations and everything. And that's when I saw Flask at work when they were building a web application to display the statistics to the people. So at that point I felt completely out of touch. Like I didn't know what to do, what to do, and I felt completely in a place where I knew nothing, and it was scary. Like I thought that I wasn't good enough. Like I thought I made a big mistake switching careers and everything, and that is when I I saw Flask being run, and how this person who was actually working with the Flask had control over, like he was the one who's planning and doing everything. So he was in touch with the front end, he was in touch with the back end. So I understood that learning Flask framework would help me be in the center of the development process, lead it, and plan. So that was one of the primary reasons why I chose Flask, and I started digging into it. And eventually I found out it to be so easy and so like developer friendly to use, and there's an amazing community out there who have great content. So I got started into Flask that way, and eventually I understood that it was a great plus for building up REST APIs. And from there, that point onwards, almost all my hackathons, they are if I have to build an application, the backend or the REST APIs is completely on Flask.
Okay, great. And like, how did you develop a passion for hackathons? Like, because a hackathon, you have to ship to solve a problem really quick. Like, it's crazy. Like, you have a lot of pressure. But how exactly did you develop a passion? Like, how it started and how it developed, and basically explaining your journey from the start, discovering hackathons and actually becoming at ease with participating and actually even winning hackathons.
So coming from like I used to be a very normal person. Like I wasn't an overachiever or anything in my school days, and I want to do
Oh,
something that I really like. Yeah.
yes. So no, that's an interesting point. Like you started like a normal anybody, and yes, continue.
Yeah, and I actually, to be honest, haven't won anything big in my school times, and I really didn't know what I really liked. And when I went to my first hackathon, I had a team of 4 people, and I was the team's newbie guy, so they probably felt pity for me, and they took me into the team. And I was just wondering and watching everything, and I really like the entire process. Where one thing is that I'm a big procrastinator. If I start something, I would just keep pushing it away, away till something.
Oh, it's not only you. It's not only you for sure. Okay, you can continue.
I just keep pushing it. But hackathons, under the time pressure, I really found myself going into it, digging into it. I used to make sure that I sleep 6 hours, but I spend a lot of time focusing on work rather than just watching something. Or I really like the way I focused during hackathons. So I started going to hackathons more frequently. And one of the major advantages of the hackathons is that you meet a lot of people and you get to know a lot of unique experiences. Like I could say that I have worked with people around 30 countries till now, like people based out of various countries. So I talk to them. I'm still in touch with a lot of folks who are there. And currently I'm building my first product, which I'm planning to launch it probably next year with a team that I met completely in hackathon. And that is how crazy hackathon has been. And when I went to my first hackathon, I didn't know anything. And that thing holded for my next 5 to 6 hackathons until Microsoft hackathon came in. Microsoft and African Library Project organized a hackathon called Hack for Africa. That was the topic on which the hackathon was organized. And we were asked to build something unique that would help solve some real life problems that is constantly faced there. And I guess a month before that, India had faced a locust attack, which happened, and these locusts are these they're insects that just goes in a mass count, and they just invade every single resource, plants and flora in the area, and they create a huge problem for food. They attack food grains, and this was a very serious problem, and this is what something we want to do something about it. So on the August, I formed a team with a completely random people that I met on the Discord server in that hackathon, and we started building up something for it. I had this idea, but I didn't know. I'm not a good UI designer, so I know how to work with the backend, how to implement some features for that idea. So the entire idea was to keep track this locust and predict their future movements. So we once I formed the team, I made sure that all my team members are on the UI side because I can handle the backend, but I cannot do the UI. So we had 2 people on UI and one person on completely on research and to know more about the locust characteristics and everything. And we started building it up. And that hackathon was my first ever win, and that gave me so much confidence and joy that I have never like felt it before, like winning something, and that too at a level where it was organized by Microsoft and a very big organization. And that is, I think, probably that motivated me to keep going on and on. More than the price or more than the amount, the fact that I was able to build something that people can potentially use in future, and something that is actually being viewed as something good by companies like Microsoft or a big organization, that motivated me to keep moving forward. And that entire atmosphere of where you build something in 2 days and you make sure that you build it and you present it. So a friend once told me that hackathon is a startup process put together in a 2 days time. So it's like building an entire startup in 2 days. And you have to research on the topic. You have to make a form a team. You have to create the product. You have to test the product if possible. Probably at least do feature testing, and then then create a slide for it, create the presentation deck, and present it out in live. So practice all this in just 2 days time. And I would say that even though I won 10 hackathons, the reason why I was able to win 10 hackathons is because I lost 30 to 40 hackathons in the journey. And every time I lost, I used to quit hackathons and say, this is it, done. And the next week, I used to go for another hackathon. It is how I've been. My friends used to mock me like, you quit, but you never really quit. And that has kept me going. Like I really like a place where you give yeah, like most of the time hackathons don't come up with a very specific problem that you need to solve. So you're open to do anything that you love. And they might have some tiny challenges like healthcare. They might give you topics on which you can build education, healthcare being the common ones, and you can build on those ideas. So at one point, we started going for hackathons on a weekly basis, and we used to go every weekend. And at my probably at my for my first 20 to 25 hackathons, I used to go with my different teams. Like I used to make the team at the hackathons. So when since it was all virtual last year, we used to have Discord meets and where we meet up people and we team up with them and we work it. It went well, and I made a lot of friends. In fact, one of my best friend now actually I met him at a hackathon, and it was really great for us. So we were working together that way. But now I have formed a team that is being continuously working with me, and we have currently won around 5 hackathons as a team together in last 1 to 3 to 4 months. So moving from a first time hacker to a professional like a pro to an experienced hacker, you will learn a lot of things that will come up help you in a long way. And these projects that you make are something that you're really passionate about. A lot of times, some projects might not come out well, but sometimes your projects might be really good. But you didn't just have enough time to build it, because we cannot build Facebook in 2 days, so it's not possible. But the entire journey, it was so much. It gave me so much satisfaction that I just want to keep going over and over and again and try to see what is the next best thing I can build. So that has been my connection with hackathons, and the reason why I really started going into hackathon is more like I want to build something and I want to build it with some of my friends and give me time. And the prizes were also a very good reason. Like it was fun to get prize or get recognized for a work that you put in, and yeah, you get to have some really cool projects up in your. That is also an added advantage.
And how do winning hackathons actually develop someone? Like how did you benefit participating in hackathons?
First, participating. If I say participating in hackathons, one, you get a great projects in your resume. So a lot of people think about what do I build. Like when I have met with a lot of my college friends, the common question that arises is that how do I improve my profile? How do I build projects? Like, and when you start trying to build projects, most of the time you hardly come up with a unique solution that you want to build, and you go for probably very common solution which is provided in top 10 projects for web developer, top 10 projects for backend. So these projects are being done by a lot of people. So to get a unique project or a nice project that you can build and something that you can build it with friends, I would say hackathon would provide a great platform for you to get some projects up and start. It will provide you a great starting point and a chance to it will let you innovate something different. And that I benefited a lot from those projects. Like by the time when I finished my 10th or 20th hackathon, I had 6 to 7 projects that were really good, and I started working on them. And one or two of my projects is now getting ready to deploy in real time. So one, the project aspect was really good, and winning major hackathons improved my profile a lot in terms of college education. So the Stanford win and the IBM win has given me a good chance with colleges for my postgraduate. So I would say winning hackathons will tell people that you're someone who's ready to who has knowledge to get things done build applications, build things. At the same time, you're also passionate about solving problems that you feel is really important to the community and to you. So that will tell you that you're not just a person who just thinks or theoretical, but knows how to have practical knowledge. So I learned my Flask framework in hackathons. I learned Azure in hackathons. I even learned quantum computing from hackathons. Like I started into quantum computing my first hackathon in McMaster AI, I guess. So that is where their hackathon was the first quantum hackathon win for me. And that, to be honest, that is where I actually started learning quantum computing. I worked on the Flask backend again, and I had some friends who had physics, who were from physics major, and they had knowledge on quantum, so they built the technical aspect. But it got me started into the quantum computing atmosphere, and then I eventually we went for Stanford, and we won a prize with Stanford. And I'm currently now right now working as an intern with a company to explore quantum finance more. So I would say hackathon helped me build my profile up, and explore more topics, and at the same time explore new avenues. And the prizes were also pretty amazing. Like we got some really good prizes, which I probably wouldn't have bought it for myself if I'm going to spend it on that. So yeah, that are a few plus that hackathons gave me. And this year, I'm going back to hackathons that I participated in one last year as a judge or as a speaker and getting some great contacts out of it. So if you leverage hackathons currently, you have projects. If you win, you might get you might get some really good prizes. If not, you get some amazing people. You get to in touch with some companies. You get in touch with contacts. So I would say network to the fullest possible. Talk to every single person. Try to talk to a lot of people there. Try to get in touch with companies who are sponsoring it. There's a high chance they might be hiring you. So just go out and network. And if it's an in-person hackathon, go for it. Make the best use of it, but be careful, be safe.
Okay, and tell me, how do you form a team for going into hackathons?
Perfect. I would split the way I form team in two aspects. In my initial stages and my later stages. So in my initial stages, I didn't really have much contacts. Like I was a Microsoft student ambassador, and I used to go with some of my friends from the community. But a lot of time, your tech stacks, your skill set doesn't match. So forming a team with a workable skill set is very important. You can have a really you can have a really experienced person whom you know that who's really good at backend. But if you are also going on backend, then you need someone to handle the front end. So I made sure that the way I formed the team is more focused around skill set that will help us develop a complete application. So we usually used to go for I used to go for a team where we had one backend developer, one person who can handle cloud in case we're going for a web app, one person who can work with databases or can again provide support on the backend side, and one person on the UI side, client side, who can build up probably a React application and then which consumes a Flask backend. So that was how the tech stack was. And then eventually I started learning Azure, and then I did both the development and deployment part. And we had more people on the UI side because design can be really time consuming. And so initial stages, that is how it is. I used to meet people at the hackathons, and probably few hours before the hackathon officially started. And I had a lot of mishaps. Like a lot of time, people's timings and interests might not really match with your timings and matching. So we had people who dropped off the team at midway, and a lot of stuff happened. But again, I met a lot of amazing people, and who to whom I'm still talking to them these days and still in touch. So that is how I used to form teams in my early stages. Like go to a hackathon, join the Discord server, talk to people around there, find their skill sets, then then form a team with them. So that's how my used to be my common approach. And very rarely I went with people who I really knew at that point. Probably because I had this imposter syndrome, where I thought that I might not be good enough to work with other people who I know. So I didn't want them to think that I'm not skilled enough. So I used to meet people in the higher Discord. But eventually I got over it. And in my second stage, I realized that having a consistent team is really important. And by the time I met with a lot of folks, and I had some good reach with contacts with people, and people who I went for hackathon who I know that who are very sincere and they are like very serious about hackathons. So then that is when I decided to create a couple of teams. So I till now I probably have created and managed three teams. And my first team was the one for the I think the IBM team was my first team. officially my first team where we formed after we had I teamed up with a couple of people in the Twitter hackathon, and we just saw that our skill set fit, and we created a team, and then we went on to win the IBM Call for Code. Like, we became the top five finalists for the university track for IBM Call for Code. And the second team that I built again was completely focused on the skill set. But right now, the current team that I'm working with, it's called Ariva. So that is a team we are building it, and I've been working on it and managing the team for past 5 to 6 months now. And we are working on building solutions that is like after hackathon. Usually, a lot of team leave their product, or they don't develop it forward because they might not get the right timing, or the members may be occupied. So we didn't want that. We were very passionate about what we are building right now. So what we are doing is that we have 5 people in the team, and we are also taking in more members. So we are currently expanding to a team of 8 people soon. So we are each of us have specialization in various areas. So we make sure that at least try not to have my same people with similar talents there, or so that we can utilize the advantage each other's skills to the maximum possible. And we are building up financial solutions right now, and we already have 5 hackathon wins, and we are currently in talks with a couple of companies to collaborate and build the product forward. So this is have been there. So after a period of probably 20 to 25 hackathons, you realize that if you want to go into hackathons and actually go for some serious hackathons, like compete in a more competitive advantage, you need to find some people who share the similar passion as you. And because you're going to be putting in your 48 hours, and when you think about putting 48 hours every weekend, you're going to be sacrificing your weekend for this. So if you're really serious about hackathons and going in full time, I strongly recommend find people who are also looking for the same advantage. If the skill set doesn't match, it doesn't matter. 1 or 2 months you can talk and you can come up with a common ground and see who can learn what and who can match what, and you can start focusing on it. So that is how currently my team is working on. We know that all of us wanted to have build a common. We want to build something more than just a hackathon. So we went for a hackathon. We knew that we should continue our project forward. So now we are building one feature at every hackathon and see if we can really innovate something new in that feature and see if our application can use it. So that has been how we have been building it for the past couple of months.
Okay, and how do you manage like to do things in a tight that within a tight frame, a tight timeline? How do you just go about it?
We still I think probably till my last 3 to 4 hackathons, all of my hackathons have been a time crunchy. Like, we used to race against time, and it's really hard to build a complete product at the same time, present the product within 48 hours, and sometimes some hackathons are not even 48, 36 hours. And the last 2 hackathons that we won were 36 hours hackathon. So we used to ideate. So what the general practice that my team does is that we target hackathons. We have collected a small database of hackathons that we want to go, and we scan them, and we just look for them. What are the things they're looking for, and we just collect, and we just go over old projects and see, and just prepare ourselves for the hackathons. And 2 weeks prior for the hackathon, we start on an idea. Like, we just try to think what is the problem that we want to solve, or since we are building our own tools, and since we're building our own product called Balanced, which is a financial learning system, along with a couple of financial tools to make personal finance more accessible and easier. So, so we want to know, we just ideate on what feature do we want to build for this. Like, what feature is something that's not commonly used, or something that can help people better. So we just think about solutions that we want, and we try to come up with an idea 1 week or at least 4 to 5 days before the hackathon starts. And once we have an idea and in the mind, and we know what it has to do and stuff like that, we just think about how to do it. Is it practical, or is it possible to do it? So the idea stage starts probably a week before the hackathon, and we don't build up. So a lot of hackathons don't allow you to build before the hackathon. So we don't build, but we just go on the idea stage, probably throw ideas around, see if this is a good idea or not, and see if it's feasible in doing so. What might be the requirements, and we prepare it. So the preparation goes for a week, and we see what is the pros and cons, and is there something else we can do, or we just collect data. So data collection is probably a very time consuming process, and sometimes we don't even get proper data. So we primarily work on data collection, or creating fake data that we might need for the hackathon. So that is what we prepare for. And once we are ready
Okay,
in the next.
so you don't build before, but you should do research before, like you are going
Yeah.
to for this hackathon, when it will start, what you will need. So
Yes.
you need to do some preparation, some maybe studying the ground ahead and knowing how to tackle possible challenges. And then of course when the hackathon starts, so you start building, but you've already done your groundwork, and it's not now that you are going to research what you need and things like that.
Yes, we do our research. Like we at times we even do research on the companies that are coming to the hackathon, so that most of the time if a company is sponsoring a particular hackathon, that means that they want to market some of the APIs or something that they want in that hackathon. So we try to look for what is that and learn more about it. So this will give us a small learning curve. But again, if the particular hackathon doesn't allow you to start doing it before, they not release topics ahead of time. So at times, a lot of time it goes guessing game, and our preparation does go in vain. But most of the time, we just prepare the idea and just do research and see if that this idea is something that people can use or something probable. So you can always do that. So we usually, like right now we are only like going for hackathons that is being conducted by IBs and like some big hackathons, so that we get a good competition and we get to compete there. So we do some basic groundwork and we just check about previous products and everything. So once we have the idea ready and the hackathon officially starts, we start building the application. But at that time or two, we have a lot of changes in the first one day. Like where one important tip that I would like to give is like always prototype. We use Figma for prototyping. Majorly, we use Figma, and at times we use Google Slides too. But always make sure that you have a UI design in front of you, so that the backend and the UI can work together. In my beginning time, in my initial stages, the UI and the backend, what I build, the APIs that I build, the endpoints that I built, and the UI design for that doesn't match, and that used to be a huge problem because when we integrate everything, and we usually integrate if the hackathon is on Saturday and Sunday. Sunday morning is when the most of the integration, or Sunday night, Saturday night to Sunday morning. That stretch is where we used to integrate stuff, because the entire Saturday will go on. Friday night to Saturday will be spent mostly on building stuff and building the UI and building the backend. And the integration part used to take up probably 2 to 3 to 4 hours based on how well how many features are there. And when we don't create a Figma design, when we don't prototype, there is always a confusion between the UI and the backend team. I think there are a lot of names for that too. And one solution that we found was that always design a Figma, have a Figma or product design by Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, so that both the sites know what exactly are they building and what it should look like, so that they can, in case you need a video streaming UI component that needs to be in place for the video streaming part to take place, or some features, so that it can work better and you know what you're building. So it is always better to have a prototype. It'll take time. It'll probably cost you 4 to 5 hours of time, like in the hackathon time, and that is something that is too costly and you can't do. But trust me, it will save you a lot of time towards the end, because at the last moment when you're trying to when you have few hours left and you have to integrate it and also create a presentation and present it, and you need to make your functions need to work when you're doing a demo. So this creating a Figma design or creating a prototype is very very crucial to your winning, or to your application actually functioning like you planned. Because as a backend developer, or if there's a so as a backend developer, you might have something in your mind. You might have created your endpoints imagining some features, or probably let's say that you imagine that your UI is going to have a button A, but the person who created the front end doesn't get the message properly that there's supposed to be a button, and he doesn't create it, and now he can't do anything there, and this particular endpoint is going to go in waste. So always having a design and having it in front of you and visualizing it is very very important, and it will save a lot of time towards the end, and it will be
And
very.
how do you document your endpoint? Swagger, I guess.
Come again?
Like the front end team. How does the front end team knows what endpoints to implement? Like they are working on the design. They see the Figma, but how they know what endpoints to implement? So do you use Swagger for that?
Yeah. So initially I used to write README documents. Like I used to create markdown documents on every endpoint and document it individually. Like I used to create documents for it. But then I started, after I discovered Swagger, I started using Swagger a lot, and it made a lot of my work more easier. And I would recommend any API developer to use products like Swagger to make better documentation. And now there are tools to auto generate Swagger, so you don't have to like work a lot on that too. But it will save you a lot of
Yes.
time, a lot of confusion. And I also
So
use Postman a lot to test my
okay,
APIs and provide
endpoints.
by what the data will look like once they call, and what kind of
Okay.
calls to do.
Okay, and tell me, with Flask, what Swagger package do you use, or what framework, what extension do you use with Flask?
Sorry.
What Swagger extension do you use with Flask? Like what API framework, or how do you go about designing APIs for Flask, implementing APIs? Like any particular extension or something like that?
So I primarily started using Flask RESTful as I
Okay.
found it better suiting my needs. Like Flask RESTful was amazing to be honest. Like it gave me a pretty neat way to handle APIs and routes, and I used to do
Mm-hmm.
it in a normal way. Like when I just got started into API development and everything, I used to just write it most of stuff on my own and just go about documentation. But eventually, I discovered Flask RESTful, and I really loved the way it did things. So I primarily right now I primarily use Flask RESTful for all my API
Okay.
needs.
But by
And
the way, you have Flask REST X. Like Flask REST X is a fork of normally you have Flask RESTful. You have a fork of it called Flask REST Plus, and then you have a fork. If I not yes, you have a fork of Flask REST Plus, which is called Flask REST X. But the documentations remain the same. The code base remain the same. Your code remains pretty much the same, but it just provides some more fixes and things like that in terms of the Swagger. So try have a look at Flask REST X. So yes, you can go on.
yeah, I actually explored Flask REST Plus at a more place, but I think they have the project has been abandoned. I'm not sure, but
Yes,
because I didn't found a lot of support and documentation when I hit some problems there, so I
you
just went.
Flask REST X is the maintained extension of is the maintained fork of Flask REST Plus. So whenever you need any documentation, so Flask RESTful documentations still help. And then normally you go like that. You search for Flask RESTful, if not Flask REST Plus documentation, if not Flask REST X, even though you are using Flask REST X. So
Amazing. I learned something today. Like I'm really gonna go and check out Flask RESTX today because
yes,
I'm a big fan of RESTful, and if
yes,
RESTX
it's
is even
amazing
more
for Flask.
better, I would love it. Like, and honestly, there are a lot of frameworks. And initially, if you're someone who's new to the API development and you just want to get started, there are a lot of template APIs that is available. You can use cookie cutters, or you can use a lot of pre-created API templates that you can use. I honestly started with one of those pre-templates. Like I had no idea what REST
Oh,
was.
okay. Like what templates? Can you share a name or something like that?
I'm not sure. Like I used to look for open source API templates in GitHub, and I just check out whether the license is MIT or it's a GNU open source license, and then I used to build on top of it. So that is how I used to explore. And after that, I started creating my own templates to fit the needs. Like I primarily use MongoDB for most of my database applications, and I don't use I am not a big fan of SQL Alchemy, so I used to go for Mongo engine, but then I had some speed issues. So eventually, then currently I'm moving to SQL Alchemy. But yeah, I used to create templates based on what I want and what kind of technology stack I use. Because when you have sponsor prizes in the hackathons, you need to use their technology. So even I built some couple of templates for data stack for their database to find have an easy way to communicate with their databases. So I think if I my GitHub repository, I have some of the templates available on my GitHub. I'll make it private soon once I make sure that I have all the like I have built it over a couple of open source projects. So I'll just get permission and I'll open source it for you folks.
Thank you very much for sharing your your journey to us, your insights for hackathons. And last thing, quickly, what Flask projects are you building right now? Like,
Uh,
do you have any ongoing project or something like that? Or
Right now, we are building up on. I'm currently working on four, like predominantly working on four projects. One is the IBM Call for Growth project on Milestone, which is which we are currently working on and trying to bring it to real life. So the entire idea of Milestone is to help communities in Milestone. Milestone is a particular fishing town in one of my friends' place in Africa, and she's trying to create a fisherman community there so that the people who actually capture the fishes and who actually does the part gets to sell it and get the profit for them and work together as a community. So it's basically a cooperative society. So we are building a solution for the cooperative society they're trying to form, and to help them better understand the current market demand and see what is the correct price to give and where to store it and sell it. So this is the product that we are developing, and its current backend is completely on Flask. And the second project that I'm currently working with my team, Riva, is the balanced ed project. So which is a financial learning application. So the thing which separates us from other products is that we are not only we are planning to provide this financial learning education platform for free, and we are planning to support this particular learning platform through our budgeting solutions. So we are creating applications around the learning solution that the users can use once they have enough knowledge on the topics. Like for example, like you might learn budgeting, so budgeting, how to budget and how to manage your budgeting problems from our platform, and you might need some tools to help you do it better. So we are providing subscription based subscriptions for tools that you might need. For example, you might need some your property tracker, or you might need tax and solutions to manage your tax and plan your taxes well. So we are currently working on solutions that will help you manage your finances more easily. And not a lot of us can afford professional bankers to help us out on various things like these that of a lot of people, other people, like people who are well off, has access to. So we are currently working on bringing personal finance management accessible, and the same time promote financial literacy among people who really need it, and mostly among college students. Because when I moved out of my house and when I started living for my college alone for my college, and I started working with clients outside the country, I had to learn a lot of things like for how to file a return or how to file taxes on my own, and it wasn't sweet. And there are too many contradicting statements and sometimes even fake things about finance around in the internet. And I really don't know whom to trust. And these days now, financial gurus have been popping up every place. And if you go to Instagram, you can always see someone else talking about some policy or thing or trying to sell something. And you don't really have a good source of financial knowledge. And there are not a lot of people who are giving it out. So we want to solve this particular problem, and hopefully we are successful at it.
okay, so thank you very much. It's been really wonderful talking to you, and so thank you very much for contributing also to Flask